Solutions.com.
21st Century Radio is sponsored by Hieronimus and Company. Now more of 21st Century Radio with your host, Dr. Bob Hieronimus.
I am a human. Well, I am a child like her. And if you look into my eyes, deep down there's a light. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Jew. It shouldn't matter to you. I'm not a capitalist, and I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I'm not the politics. Tell me, are these the reasons you can't live right? I am a human.
Oh boy. There's our very dear friend Ziggy Marley, and looking forward to him joining us again sometime in the future. And that's his song, I Am a Human. He gave it out for free. He's a lot like us, and we're a lot like him. Okay, welcome back to 21st Century Radio. I'm Dr. Bob Hieronimus, and our executive producer and research assistant Laura Cordner, and our engineer is Nita Brockington, and our guest both hours is Alfred Lambremont Webre. The Omniverse, Transdimensional Intelligence, Time Travel, and the Afterlife, and the Secret Colony on Mars, Bear & Company, 2015. I guarantee you that you should get a copy of this book. You may not understand it right now, but I'll tell you, this is a book that you'll learn a great deal from. You're not going to learn it anywhere else at this particular time. So we suggest you do that. And of course, if you get a copy of this book, here's the plan. If you get a copy of this book and you can prove it, you can choose any other book that my wife and I have ever written, or any other book we've done over the past 32 years here on 21st Century Radio. But you got to prove that you bought the copy of the book. Okay, are you there with us there, Alfred?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Now, there's so much to cover, and we needed 4 hours, but we can't afford 4 hours. That's the way it goes. This is something I've always wondered about. Remember the book? I'm sure you remember the book because it's in your book, Urantia. The Urantia book?
Oh, yes, very, very much so.
What was it? 1,400 pages. Took me the longest time to get through that book, and I had a lot of questions about it, but no one to ask. Other people didn't want to talk about it. How does the Urantia book possibly provide hints about possible cosmological models about the Omniverse?
Well, that's a key question. That is a very, very good question and a key question. And I myself first came across the Urantia book on Christmas Eve at an all-night radio talk show at Princeton, New Jersey, and then in 1980 spent 6 months in Melbourne, Australia, reading the Urantia book.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
And then really went into depth on it because it is a model. The Urantia book really provides a model for the dimensional ecology of the Omniverse. And when I wrote my book, Exopolitics, the book Exopolitics really integrates the revelation-based model that's provided in the Urantia book into an exopolitical science primer that the book Exopolitics is. And I say so in the book Exopolitics. And so when we get to the book, The Omniverse, that really, although it's not mentioned there, that really draws upon the almost 40 years of having internalized the revelation of the dimensional ecology of the Omniverse, although the cosmological model provided in the Urantia book does not talk about this and is not science-based, but rather it uses a lot of code words for, we can get into why it does that, and it uses a lot of things that may be hard to explain. And so what I've really done over the course of 40 years is taken that model and worked it inside of myself and begun, bounced it around, and in the course of at least one, what I call extraterrestrial adduction, as opposed to abduction. Abduction is being taken away from Earth. Adduction is being taken toward the stars, where I was abducted by the same, and at the same time, and by the same group of extraterrestrials that abducted President Jimmy Carter in 1969. They abducted me in 1973, and they abducted U.S. chrononaut Andy Bashago, who became an eyewitness of my abduction so that he could testify about it, so I wouldn't look like a darn fool when I went public about it. I at least had a Cambridge-educated member of the bar to testify and say, yes, the extraterrestrials showed me, when I was abducted, I was shown by the extraterrestrials, I was shown a photograph of Alfred Lambremont Webre being abducted by the same extraterrestrial. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but... Well,
it does, because there's about a half a dozen of our listeners out there that I know about the Urantia book, and they had as many questions about it as I do, and maybe even more. That's why I found it so important. That's why I've enjoyed your book so much, because there's so many parts in it that when I was working with the World Future Society and other groups like that with Barbara Marx Hubbard and et cetera, were important to me. I wanted to know what other people were learning from these things. Now, you note that the exopolitical literature shows that advanced intelligent civilizations describe themselves by the dimension in which they are based. Please explain what this means.
Yes. This, just to give some background, part of the genesis of this book and how it really got started, there were many specific kind of events that pushed me along the way, but one was that I was contacted by Oxford University Press, which is a division of Oxford University, which I've always considered to be kind of a cathedral of learning. I've got people in my family who were Rhodes Scholars, and my son has an acting degree an acting certificate rather from Oxford. So I was raised in an atmosphere and in a home where Oxford was kind of a place you wanted to work toward. Mm-hmm. And Oxford wrote me and said, would you be interested and could you write a book entitled Extraterrestrials and the Law? And I said, sure. And so saying sure was the easy part, and then sitting down to write it was the most difficult part.
That's always the hard part.
and because then I began to face the issue of how would a court in a third density, how would a third density court on Earth in time and space acquire jurisdiction over a fifth density Pleiadian or a sixth density Arcturian company or party that had come here and not fulfilled a particular contract, or had come here and had done something that was untoward. And that's a real issue. That is, how do you get there from here when you're in a different dimension? And so from that, I I saw that one of the key aspects of ontological sciences, which are typologies, once you get into exopolitics or you get into anthropology, you start writing typologies, and that is the different types of the sort of entities that you're examining. And these are universe-based intelligent species. And so I began to look at them, how they self-describe them, themselves. And I discovered that the commonality is they describe themselves by the density or the dimension in which they are based. In other words, I am a Pleiadian from the fifth dimension. I am an Arcturian from the sixth dimension. I'm a Draco-Reptilian from the fourth dimension, which means that they can sort of play around with us, and if we don't watch out, they can get some wars started on Earth like they've been doing for the last several hundred years. And we humans don't normally walk around thinking, well, I'm a human from Earth and I'm in time and space, but as time travel becomes more widely known, humans will begin to appreciate the dimension of time more. And you will notice over the last few recent years in the media and in motion pictures and in television kind of popular drama, time travel is more and more of a popular theme, and that's because more and more of the whistleblowers are going public on the subject of time travel. And time travel is being leaked by the CIA into movies and into other ways in a way that they deem will not jeopardize their national security secrets.
Mm-hmm. So you have third dimensionals, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. And
yeah, right, and so that essentially what we've looking at universes. I know it sounds strange, but I've come to look at our universe as kind of a big washing machine.
Well, it needs it right about now.
And what it is that a core mission of the dimensional ecology of the Omniverse, of the total Omniverse, appears to be the creation and the development of souls and spiritual beings. And this is also sort of a fundamental religious tenet that you will find in all the spiritual traditions, be that be Christianity, Islam, Judaism, any of the fundamental spiritual traditions will talk about the kind of spiritual areas and the functions of the development of souls and the moral growth of souls in all dimensions of the Omniverse, and the soul itself as a holographic fragment of source. And one of the properties of a hologram is that the whole exists in each part of the whole, so that each of us that has a soul has a holographic fragment of source in us, a non-local holographic fragment, and that means that we have the totality in a holographic sense of source within us. And that's why you hear people say, Namaste, I salute the God within you. Now, what is the purpose of the universe, of our universe? And what function does it have? Well, it turns out that the spiritual dimension, and we know this from our research, according to Omniverse science, that it's the intelligent civilization of souls plus the spiritual beings plus source that collectively together create and maintain the universes of the multiverse. So each of us is involved as a collective in creating and maintaining the universes, so that each of us souls, and we describe what the sources of this research is and how we arrive at it. Our only duty is not incarnating in the universes, but also creating them and maintaining them. And what function do the universes have? Well, the universes are kind of these virtual arenas where souls go to incarnate into them as a variety of exophenotypes. And
we need to pause here. We need to pause here. We're out of time in this segment. We'll come back and we'll finish up with that, and then we're going to get into, I'll give you a question that you can bone up on, because this is a lot of information. You believe that the intelligent human civilization living under the surface of Mars that reportedly enjoys a strategic relationship with the United States government. And we're going to be asking you, how did that come about? There are so many things in this book that are going to be very surprising to most Americans. And I think as the years go on, this book will become more and more popular. So we're proud to present it to our listeners tonight. We'll be back with our guest, Alfred Lambremont Webre. Well, I don't know if I agree with that. I believe in freedom of speech, One doesn't like to learn that you can only talk about things that your boss approves. It sounds a little bit like Russia to me. Well, would you like to win a free copy of the book we're talking about? The Omniverse, Transdimensional Intelligence, Time Travel, The Afterlife, and Secret Colony on Mars by Alfred Lambremont and Webre, and published by our friends at Bear & Company. If you know the answer to this hour's trivia question, you will win that book. Do you know who our final guest was the last time I hosted 21st Century Radio? Let us know if you know who our final guest was the last time I hosted 21st Century Radio. And if you do, you're going to win, but you'll also have to qualify. How do you do that? Here it is. If you know the answer to this hour's quiz question on 21st Century Radio and you have not won from us in the last 60 days, call in now. 410-922-6680. That's 410-WCBM-680. First with the right answer wins. Prizes are available for you to pick up at the WCBM studios in Pikesville after Friday of this week. Winners have 60 days to pick up the prizes and must wait 60 days before winning another prize from 21st Century Radio. Good luck.
I'm Zechariah Sitchin. You are listening to 21st Century Radio with Dr. Bob Hieronimus.
Well, thank you, Zechariah. I haven't talked to you in at least 2.5 years. I think he passed on before that, didn't he? Yeah. Welcome back to 21st Century Radio. Of course, we're talking about the Omniverse, Transdimensional Intelligence and Time Travel, and Afterlife, and Secret Colony on Mars, which we're ready to get into now. Published by, of course, Bear & Company. ExopolitcsTV, or check out his popular YouTube channel or find him on Facebook or Twitter. Now, you were finishing up on the universes when we were talking about souls before. And with the limited amount of time, I'm going to push us ahead on something, which I think is what many of our listeners would like to know. And that is, you believe that the intelligent human civilization that there is an intelligent living civilization living under the surface of Mars that reportedly enjoys a strategic relationship with the U.S. government. How in the world did this come about?
Well, that's a very, very good question, and I've spoken with chrononauts and members of the secret space program, part of whose job is to be members of support groups for Martians who come to the Earth and have to adapt to our civilization. So there are ongoing support groups for Martians here. So people should get used to that. But if you and all of these have been confirmed to us by lifelong employees of the U.S. intelligence agencies who were not lying. I mean, they said, yep, you got it right. Basically, there are 5 species of bipedal intelligent humanoids on Mars. Number 1, there's one that we call Homo martis terris, and these are categories that were developed by chrononaut Andrew D. Bashago in his historic paper, The Discovery of Life on Mars, that we were the first to publish at ExopolitcsTV. And you can still find that at ExopolitcsTV. And so that the first type of humanoid are the descendants of Earthlings who went to Mars during the first civilization on Earth, and they were separated from Earth by the solar system catastrophe of around 11,500 years ago. If you look at our solar system and suddenly go back to 9,500 BC, 11,500 years ago, it's very much different from what it is now. You would have an interplanetary society with civilizations that are trading and dealing with each other on different planets. You would have a civilization on Mars, which is a verdant planet like Earth. You would have Earth, and that's why you have pyramids on Mars and pyramids on Earth. These are pyramid-based cultures. And don't forget that you have the asteroid belt, which was a large Earth-like planet called Tiamat, which was highly populated before it was destroyed. Now, see, there are different accounts of why Tiamat was destroyed in Mars. You can say, oh, that was destroyed by a celestial collision. Well, yes, but it was a celestial collision that was part of an intersolar system war. That was part of a war between different exophenotypes, between reptilians and humans. And all of these are described in various programs that we have done at Exopolitics TV with exopolitical scholars that talk about the history of the rivalry between the reptilian races and the human races going back to Lyra in our galaxy and our universe. So our solar system, as we see it now, has been targeted with war for a long time. There are people that say that Mars is denuded now by a solar system catastrophe, and that solar system catastrophe was a nuclear attack. It was nuked. It's a planet that was nuked, and that's partially why there's so much attention on Earth, because our universe society is so concerned about our zero-type civilization, and they don't want ourselves to blow ourselves up, because we have enough nuclear firepower on Earth to blow ourselves up many times over. And the biggest challenge of a zero-type civilization like us is that you blow yourselves up before you get to a one-type. And as you know, we now have all sorts of bravado going on with public leaders leading memes that they have to use nuclear weapons right at the time that we thought that we would be getting rid of these weapons of mass destruction that would, destroy the last populated planet that we have at third density, which is Earth. We had Mars at third density fully populated, and they got blown up in a nuclear war. We had Tiamat fully populated, and they got blown up into the asteroid belt. And now it's Earth. And, so we're about to repeat that mistake again, except that hopefully the extraterrestrials will not let this happen. Well, so that the first species of the 5 species of humanoids on Mars are the descendants of Earthlings. They're kind of our cousins. They're like our earthly cousins. And people who have interacted with them, Andrew Bishago has met them at a U.S. military base in the early 1970s and says that they're bald. They're kind of bald. The males are bald, and they look like the Mike Myers character, Dr. Evil, in those Mike Myers movies with Dr. Evil. Do you recall those?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. And so that's who that is. There's a lot of social programming going on, we hypothesize, whereby the CIA is leaking what Martian hominids, what Martis Homos Terris looks like by putting them in popular movies. Now, there's a second type of indigenous Martian called Homo Martis Martis, and they look a little bit like the Nosferatus monster in those early 1920s horror movies. That is, they look kind of spooky. And they're not really our cousins, but they're still some sort of hominid. And they are very hard to trace down when you're on Mars. And the word that is given to all of Earthlings that are sent there and that are Earth bases, that you want to watch out for them because they occasionally kill humans and eat them. Now, there is also a species of humanoid on Mars that looks like a gray ET. It's small, and they walk around in uniforms, but they kind of look like grays. And then there are two other species that have been identified from the photographs of the Mars rovers, and they've been identified by an organization called the Mars Anomaly Research Society. That's MARS, M-A-R-S, of which I serve as the chairman of the advisory committee. And those are a tiny species of hominid that are just a few inches tall, and a kind of a Sasquatch-type creature. So that the surface population on Mars, which is now denuded of any vegetation, so that the only food sources on Mars are organic life eating each other, and is very much different from that of Earth. Now, it's been told to us that ever since the West, the U.S., primarily through its bases, started settling on Mars and establishing industrial facilities there, they've also brought things like cattle over and other livestock crops. There are predators that roam the surface of Mars that are of a reptilian origin, that are kind of would be the equivalent of raptors, velociraptors, and other types of creatures from the dinosaur era from Earth, because Mars did not have a KT event like Earth did, and we've been able to identify them from photographs. And people can go to projectmars.net, or you can join our Facebook group, Project Mars, the Mars Anomaly Research Society, which continues to analyze this. But again, this is done under social secrecy and under deniability by the U.S. president, such that even though Barack Obama has been on Mars, because we published and we identified Barack Obama as, when he was called Barry Soetoro, as a participant in the 1980 CIA Life on Mars seminar at the College of the Siskiyous near Mount Shasta, California, which was a preparation for all the Mars jump room program, all of the Mars astronauts that were going to jump to Mars using a technology gifted to the U.S. by the gray ETs, whereby they would teleport to Mars in a matter of 20 minutes or so.
We got a pause here on 21st Century Radio, and when we get back, we'll hear more from Alfred Lambremont Webre and talk more on some of the other beings that exist on Mars. Statue of Liberty as an American goddess? Well, we do, in our new book, Secret Life of Lady Liberty, Goddess in the New World. It's been described as a long overdue feminist and multi-ethnic history of the Statue of Liberty that surprisingly draws our country's entire history through this iconic image. appreciating the Statue of Liberty as America's goddess allowed us to explore her Native American and feminist roots and to envision a sustainable future where liberty indeed prevails. What can the Statue of Liberty teach us about women's power? Well, find out at www.secretlifeofladyliberty.com. That's secretlifeofladyliberty.com.
This is Paul David, producer-director of Jesus in India, the movie. You are listening to 21st Century Radio with Dr. Bob Hieronimus. Visit me at jesusinindiathemovie.com.
Well, Jesus did go to India. Friends, you know, that's one of the strangest things is this. The history books that we have today are so far behind what really is going on. And with this present administration, it looks as if it's going to get worse than better. But by the way, we had a winner by the name of Jackie. And Jackie, congratulations, but I wanted Jackie, as soon as you get this book, you go to page 39 to 49, because you're going to love that systematic classification based on phenotypes of all types. If you think that there's just 3 or 4 different types of aliens, you're wrong. There are thousands, and this book really does an incredible job on that. Go to 39 to 40. Congratulations, Jackie. You've got a real winner. And by the way, I just want to mention this, that MUFON is going to have, on July 27th to 29th, 2018, UFOs, Extraterrestrials, and the Future of Humanity. And their focus is going to be literally on the kind of things that we are talking about tonight. So things are breaking all over of course, you could turn on television and miss this for 24 more years, or listen to other radio stations and never learn about it at all. But big changes are on the way. Okay, now, of course, we're talking with Alfred Lambremont Webre. The book is The Omniverse, Transdimensional Intelligence, Time Travel, The Afterlife, and the Secret Colony on Mars, which we were touching on. Bear & Company, 2015. Now, gosh, we're going to be running out. We got about 11, 12 minutes here. No, less than that. Your book provides a description of a systematic classification based on phenotypes that is the observable characteristics of aliens. Would you let us know about a few of the types that are not necessarily reported at all?
Well, if you can start out with the humanoid exophenotype, and we're all familiar with the standard Terran, exophenotype, and that's because we're all kind of tuned into the consensual trance that we're on a planet where humans are the only game going, and we won't even recognize that there's Sasquatch here.
Yes,
which is another humanoid that's here for as long as we are, or more. And then there are shorter humans that are like ourselves that have different names. There's even taller humanoids. There's, in fact, one of the secret missions of the Smithsonian is to categorize, and some say hide, all of the evidence that of the giants here on North America.
Well, they certainly have done that. They have done that. They've hit it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I mean, ranging from 25 feet tall to 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
And the bones of these giants are all around the world, and there's and you can tie them to different epochs, and the Bible talks about them, and then there are extraterrestrials that are very tall, that are human, that have been in human ET liaison programs. As I mentioned, you've got feline, you've got other exophenotypes, which are in advanced intelligence can take on a feline form, can take on an avian form. It doesn't. You can have all kinds. Blue-skinned aliens, and then we mentioned the 5 exophenotypes on Mars. However, many people have seen the grays. They're kind of all. They're actually 250 types of grays that have been identified, and those are the archetypal gray is kind of a round head and big eyes, etc. Mm-hmm. And generally, to make a gross overgeneralization, grays are the vegetable kingdoms. How advanced intelligence manifests inside the vegetable kingdom, because many grays have chlorophyll instead of blood. Mm-hmm. So it's like what an advanced plant looks like if you, and then you have the insectoid type. Well, in grays, you still have the standard grays that are 4 to 5 feet tall, the tall-nosed grays 6 to 9 feet tall, the short grays 3.5 feet tall, the mini grays. They're 150 to 200 types of grays, and then you've got the reptilian exophenotypes, and there is where the reptilian advanced intelligence goes into the reptilian, reptoid, dinoid, saurian form. Mm-hmm. The snake, giant snakes that have our intelligence or more. You have the tall winged dracos. These are, the famous dragons.
Yeah.
These are dragons that are intelligent. They're 14 to 22 feet tall. They can weigh up to 1,800 pounds. The winged dragon mothmen, they are very muscular. They stand 7 to 8 feet tall. The non-winged dracos, these are all based. I'm going through them very, very rapidly, but these are all based on research, observation. They all have all sorts of origins, characteristics. You've got iguana-like, you've got lizard-like, you've got giant snakes that are intelligent. They are as intelligent, or more than you and I. And you've got hooded reptilians, and you've got insectoid, the insectoid category, who are praying mantis, the intelligent extraterrestrial praying mantis are very spiritual. They're very evolved. There's categories called deponoids, who are energy suckers. There's hybrids, and all, there's a whole panoply. But I know that we're coming to the end of the hour, so I just wanted to mention those.
Well, I wanted to note that one of the other reasons why I enjoyed your book so much, it had, because of your discussions also with what's going on with these encounters in the sense of transformation of consciousness, because it seems that what's exactly what we are moving towards, and that in a certain sense some of the grays are teaching us how to move into that state of consciousness. Did I remember reading that there was a very small gray that got ran over by one of NASA's trucks? They're not really trucks, but
yes. There are very small beings on Mars. They're only 2 to 3 inches tall, but they're actually intelligent beings, and they got run over. Some of them got run over by the Mars rovers.
Yeah.
So when one goes to a planet other than Earth, it is a vastly different planetary ecology than Earth, and that is the essence of what the powers that be on Earth have known for a long time, over a century, and they're gradually acclimating Earth to that reality.
Wow. Well, I wish we had a couple more hours. I really do. There's so many other things we couldn't touch, like what are orbs being, the orbs being in a soul state. You've opened up so many things. This is a very important work. And that's one of the reasons why I was most happy when you said you could join us, because it really does open up the mind as to there are so many more things to learn in this world than most people think, instead of sitting around watching television or playing football or baseball. And we have a lot more to do with elevating of consciousness for what is to come. I want to thank you for joining us, Alfred.
Well, thank you for providing a platform for this important information.
Well, it is very important information. It's way ahead of what we're learning today about our country. Well, see you next week. Actually, Zoe will see you next week here on 21st Century Radio.
With stimulating talk and breaking news on Talk Radio 680 WCBM, Baltimore, and WCBM.com.
This is a Fox News alert.